You might disagree with me, but the old textbook rule that gold always goes up during war is currently failing you. While missiles hit gas fields and oil shoots past $100, gold isn't acting like a safe haven, it's acting like an emergency collateral.
You look around and the world is, well, it's on fire, right? We've got conflicts flaring up, oil has blown past $100 a barrel, and the markets are just bleeding out. Through all of this, we've always been told that gold is the ultimate safe haven. So what gives? Why isn't it skyrocketing? In fact, why is it actually falling? That's the huge paradox we are going to unpack today. And this right here, this really gets to the heart of all the confusion. The expectation that's been drilled into us forever is that war and panic, well, that means gold prices go to the moon. But the reality we're seeing right now, it's the complete opposite. Gold isn't being treated as a safe place to hide, it's being treated as an ATM, a ready source of cash. And we're not talking about a small dip here. After touching a record high over $5,400 an ounce, gold has plunged by about $700. This just completely blows up that simple story that war means gold goes up. So what is really going on here? Okay, so the first piece of the puzzle is this really critical distinction. In true, absolute chaos, cash becomes king. We need to unpack what that term safe haven actually means when the pressure is really on. And that brings us to this word you hear all the time, liquidity. See, in the first moments of a real crisis, the biggest driver isn't some abstract fear. It's the very real, very urgent need for cash. Big investors, even entire countries, they stop asking what's safe and start asking, what can I sell right now in huge amounts without crashing the price? And gold, because it's so easy to sell, becomes the obvious answer. And this is where you have to separate two different ideas, dealing with risk versus reacting to pure chaos. Investors usually buy gold to hedge against long-term risks, things like inflation slowly eating away at their money. But when full-blown chaos hits, the whole game changes. Suddenly, nations need hard cash to fund a war or to secure energy supplies. They go from being strategic buyers to forced sellers. So the crucial takeaway here is that gold's role completely flips. It stops being that long-term store of value, and instead, it becomes emergency collateral. Think of it like a country having to sell its family jewels just to keep the lights on. It's not that gold has failed, it's that its job, for a short time, has completely changed. Now, this desperate need for cash, it feeds right into the second and honestly, the even more powerful force that's hammering gold down, a massive, almost invisible stampede for the US dollar. And this is probably the best way to think about it. When the global financial system is under stress, like a burning building, capital doesn't flow to the nicest or safest asset in the long run. No, it stampedes towards the nearest exit. And right now, the biggest, most obvious exit is the US dollar. And this creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop. Let's just walk through it. Step 1, a global conflict makes oil prices spike. Step 2, since pretty much all oil is traded in dollars, countries suddenly need way more of them to buy energy. So step 3, what's the fastest way for a country to get its hands on a bunch of dollars? They sell their gold reserves. And that leads to step 4. A flood of gold from national vaults hits the market, dramatically increasing the supply. And you know what happens next? Step 5. With way more sellers than buyers, the price of gold gets pushed down. It's a direct, almost mechanical chain reaction. And this whole effect is being put on steroids right now. You've got the Fed keeping interest rates pretty high, which makes holding dollars more attractive. You have that huge demand for oil payments we just talked about. Then there's just its general status as the world's go-to currency. And of course, all that forced selling of other assets, like gold, to get a hold of it. All of this is just creating this immense downward pressure on the price of gold. But while all this short-term chaos is going on, there's a completely different story playing out in the background. Let's take a look at what the smart, long-term players are doing while everyone else is running for the exits. You go online, you read the headlines, and everyone is screaming that gold is dead, that it's failed. But at the same time, some of the biggest players on the world stage are doing the exact opposite. They see this price weakness not as a failure, but as a massive opportunity. And you don't have to take my word for it. The proof is right here in the data. Look at China. The People's Bank of China has been steadily buying more gold for 16 straight months. 16. While everyone else is panic selling, China is systematically buying. They just keep adding more, bringing their official holdings to a record high. So, why are they doing this? Well, this isn't some short term trade. This is a long term strategic move to diversify away from the dollar. It's an insurance policy. They're actually using the chaos that's caused by the dollar's strength to quietly accumulate an asset that exists completely outside of that system. So, let's bring all this home. We've seen the short term panic for cash on one side and the long term strategic buying on the other. What are the key takeaways from all of this for you? Here are the three big things to keep in your head. First, think in years, not in headlines. This price drop is a liquidity event. It's about a scramble for cash, not a final judgment on gold's long-term value. Second, watch what the big players do, not what all the noise says. Countries like China are using this as a buying opportunity. And third, you have to understand that a lot of this price movement is being driven by the paper market. That's futures, derivatives, not by a collapse in demand for the actual physical metal in your hand.
So I guess all of this really boils down to one simple question for you. When you see the scary headlines and the falling prices, is your gut reaction driven by short-term fear? Or are you focused on the long-term picture, like those central banks that are quietly stacking in silence? The answer to that question says an awful lot about your own strategy.